Alhamdulilāh Rabbil Alameen, wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya'i wal mursaleen, nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'een. Allahumma rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wa hlul 'uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli, amma ba'd. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah, today we continue with our regular Thursday sessions that take place after Isha on the topic of Tajweed. In the last two sessions we completed an introduction to Tajweed, Alhamdulillah. Today we will be getting into the rules straight away, Alhamdulillah. I know many people have been waiting eagerly for these rules, so inshallah today we will be getting into the rules straight away. That's the first thing. Second thing is we will be completing the recitation of Surah Al-Fatihah today with Tajweed, and inshallah hopefully next week we will start with Surah Al-Nas, going backwards from Juz Amma bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. Okay, to start off with, inshallah, of course, today's session, and I think the next session will probably be the most important sessions. Only because, of course, we will be talking about the letters of the Arabic language, and most emphasis should be given on the letters more than anything else. Rules come after, the letters are the most important thing. So I want you all to please, inshallah, concentrate, and hopefully we'll have an engaging session for today and next week, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. طيب, to start off with, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala, we need to talk about something very important, and that is what is known as the articulation points for the Arabic letters. In Tajweed we have two very important aspects when it comes to letters. We have something known as makharij al-huruf, and we have something known as sifat al-huruf. Right? Makharij al-huruf means the exit points or the articulation points for these letters. And then we have something known as sifat al-huruf, which is the characteristics of these letters. One is the most important thing, which is the makharij. Sifat al-huruf is important, but for the general mass it's not as important. I remember I asked one of my Shaykh about this, that Shaykh, shall I be teaching sifat al-huruf to the general public? He said it's not necessary. Makharij al-huruf is the most important thing. Okay? So we will be, in this course that we are doing, we will be focusing on makharij al-huruf and not getting into the sifat al-huruf, because technicalities aren't as important as long as you understand how to pronounce the letters, inshallah. طيب, I've got a diagram here which I'm going to summarize, and then we're going to break down, inshallah. It's not the best picture, but hopefully it'll do. Okay? So this picture here summarizes the 5 main points of the letters, the articulation points, right? Okay, we have 5 very important points. The first we have is al-khayshum, which is the nose, right? That's one area where certain letters are pronounced from. We have the mouth, which is of 3 sounds when you are prolonging it, the a, e, and u. You have the throat letters, which consists of 6 letters. You have the lips, you have the ba, the fa, the mim, the waw. And then you have the letters of the tongue, which are the rest of the letters of the Arabic language. Now I know I've summarized it here, but we're going to be getting into it slowly, showing you exactly how to pronounce every letter. Because that's the most important thing, isn't it? Summaries are not as important. You have to break it down to understand each letter. For that, we're going to be moving on to something very important here. When we look at the Arabic letters, guys, we find that the Arabic letters can be divided into 3 groups. How many groups? 3 groups, okay? The first of these groups is known as the heavy letters. Al-huruf al-mufakhama, okay? Heavy letters. The second group is described as the light letters, right? For those of you who have been attending the lesson, we've summarized the difference between a heavy and light, isn't it? We'll be touching on it in more detail today. And then the third group that we have is either, meaning sometimes it could be heavy, sometimes it could be light. And we're going to be getting into each group, inshallah. And as we go along, I want you all to memorize these letters and know them inside out, bi'idhnillah. Okay? طيب, we're going to start off with the heavy letters. In this diagram here, you've got 2 pictures, right? One of, you can say, a sentence, and one as separate letters. Okay? These letters here are 7 letters, and they are the only heavy letters in the Arabic language. The main heavy letters of the Arabic language. We're going to be talking about how to pronounce them separately, inshallah, but I want you to repeat after me. Everyone ready? I want by the end of this lesson that everyone memorize it. Right, everyone say it after me. Khussa. Khussa. ضغط. Again, khussa. ضغط. قض. I'll say it together now. Khussa ضغط قض. Who can do it? Excellent, very good, mashallah, tabarakallah. طيب, here I've mentioned a sentence, Khussa ضغط قض. It was a norm of the Arabs, and it still is, when they want to memorize something, they just make it into sentences or poetry, just to make it easier for themselves, right? And it's an easy way of learning. Now, if I was to ask you right now, okay, brothers, what are the Arabic, the heavy letters of the Arabic language? Firstly, you'll be like, okay, let me go through alif, ba, da, da. Okay, kha, okay, right? Now that's difficult, isn't it? Imagine you've memorized the sentence, and I ask you, okay, brothers, what are the Arabic letters? Khussa ضغط قض. Khalas. You've taken a shortcut, right? طيب. So if you look at the sentence, it consists of how many letters? 7 letters. And these 7 letters are the only heavy letters. Remember, there is a group that is sometimes heavy, sometimes light. We're not talking about that. We're talking about generally. These are the 7 letters. Now, I'm going to give you 2 pieces of advice when we're pronouncing these letters to make it easy for you to pronounce these letters before we even get into it. Let's see who remembers these 2 pieces of advice that I gave a few lessons ago. Can anyone remember? That's for light letters. Good, very good. Oval shape. That's the first advice that I'm going to give. Second advice that I'm going to give is do not move the bottom lip. And another advice I'm going to give. Go up and down and don't go left and right. Can someone explain that to me? What I mean by that? When you pronounce the letters... Okay, good. He's Jayyid, mashallah. Anyone else? When you're pronouncing these letters, your mouth should be going up and down, not left and right. Watch. Once a person starts saying kha, what's he doing with his mouth? He's going left and right, isn't it? So he's making his letter what? Light. But if I say up and down, watch. Kha. What's happened now? I made it heavy. You see the difference, right? So these 3 are the golden piece of advice for you to make sure that your letters are heavy. Now breaking it down, inshallah, we're going to be going through these letters one at a time. We have the letter kha firstly. The letter kha, okay, mashallah. I have someone special guest today. طيب. Sometimes people may say it as a K, ka, right? They struggle to pronounce the letter kha. Kha has this kind of harshness to it when you're pronouncing it, right? And the easiest way to give an example for it, anyone here heard the Liverpool accent before? Huh? Anyone heard it? Okay. طيب. Do they say K or do they say Khe? Khikh the ball, right? Right? So their khas are on point. Okay? This is how it should be, right? That you make that sound, right? But you make your mouth into an oval shape. Watch me say it. Kha. Everyone together. Kha. Good. Remember, what's the 3 golden pieces of advice? 1, up and down. Okay? Oval shape. And the third is do not move your bottom lip. This will apply to some of the letters here that we will cover after this. So the first letter is Kha. Don't worry, we'll get into it with a kasra and dhamma now, inshallah. طيب, let's say it with a dhamma. Khu. Khu. So kha and khu is quite easy. You're making your mouth into an oval shape. When it comes to the kasra, what do? Here, you have to smile a little bit, but it does not mean that the letter is becoming a light letter. Very important. It still stays as a heavy letter, and you still call it a heavy letter, but it's given the least amount. So this is how you say it. Khi. Khi. Sometimes you hear people say khi. No. Khi. Okay, together now. Kha. Khu. Khi. Good, mashallah. طيب. Moving on, we have the letter Sad. This here is where all the 3 pieces of advice that I give apply. Because one of those pieces of advice I said that don't move your bottom lip. When you start moving your bottom lip, then you become a typical Bengali like us. Swad. No, okay. There's no such thing as a SW, right? We don't add in extra letter to it, right? So we don't say swad, because what happened there, you're adding an extra sound. That sound is not supposed to be there. So we'll say like this. Okay, say it with me, guys. Swad. Good. Slaw. Okay. Slu. How is it going to be when with a kasra? This is the hard one. Remember when we covered in Surat Al-Ladina. So when we're saying here with a kasra, again, it's the least amount, but it's still classed as a heavy letter. Watch. Sli. Sli. Don't move your bottom lip. Don't say swi. Keep it straight. Sli. Let's say it together. Slaw. Slu. Sli. Jayid. Okay. Dad. Dad is a letter that's always debated about. Okay. The letter Dad, I'm going to simplify it, then when we get into the Fatiha, Walad Dalin, we'll talk about it in more detail. Dad is just like the Sad in pronunciation in the sense that you apply these three rules that I've mentioned, the three golden rules, right? However, Dad, when you're pronouncing it, your tongue should be touching your palate the way you would say the letter Dal. Dal is closer to the letter D, but is it a letter D? We talked about it in last lesson. It's not a letter D. So you can't say dal, nor can you say dod. No. Dod. Dod. Use the flat part of your tongue. Don't use the tip of your tongue. Watch. Dod. Da. Dul. How do we do the kasra? Good. MashaAllah, I heard it. Di. Di. Without moving the bottom lip. طيب, moving on. Ghain. Here, many times you'll hear people say ghain or gain. We've established this rule already, isn't it? Ghain is a heavy letter. Apply the three principles that I've given you guys. You'll see that it can't be a ghain. It'll be what? Good. Up and down. Ghain. No. Ghain. No. Okay, so let's say it with the Fatihah, Kasra, Dhamma. Gha. Ghu. Kasra. Good. Ghi. Just like the letter Kha, isn't it? Khi. So we don't say Ghi. What do we say? Ghi. Ghi. Okay. Moving on to the letter Ta. Ta is close to the letter T, but is it a letter T? No. Remember this, okay? It's not a letter T. We don't say Ta. No. Use the flat part of your tongue and not the tip of your tongue. Fantastic, mashallah. These advices, guys, keep in mind these advices. You'll see that it'll come in handy. So when we say the same thing, okay, say after me. Ta, tu, ti. Mumtaz. Very good. Moving on, we have the letter Qaf. Qaf, guys, sometimes people mistake it for a letter of the throat. Qaf is not a letter of the throat. It is a letter of the tongue. How do we differentiate between the letter of the throat and the letter of the tongue? Very easy. If you are closing your airway, then know that you're using your tongue. If you're not closing that airway, you're leaving it open, that means you're using your throat. Watch. Kha. Say kha. Is the airway opened? That means it's a letter of what? Throat, right? Qaf. What happens when you say the qaf? You're blocking it. So that means you're using what? Part of your tongue, right? So when you say the qaf, guys, we know that qaf is the last part on top after the throat. When we say it, it's with a heavy sound. Qaf. Say it with me. Qa. Qu. Qi. So here it applies the same as the ghain and kha. Same thing. Qi. And you don't say qi. Don't say qi. No. Qi. Good. طيب. The last letter we have is the letter dha. The letter dha, guys, it's more close to the letter Z. But it's not a Z, right? Okay. And you have to say it with the tip of your tongue out. Right? Dha. Dhu. Dhi. Mumtaz. Very good. Okay. So here we have these letters. All of these letters you see, that they have these golden rules that I've mentioned, principles. So if you ever get mixed up, apply these three things I've mentioned, inshallah you won't get it wrong, okay? So say after me again, خص ضغط قلظ. If someone was to ask you what are the heavy letters of the Arabic language, are you going to say خاص, or are you going to say خلاص, mashallah? Alright, خص ضغط قلظ. Okay, everyone understood that? Good. We're going to be moving on bi'idhnillahi ta'ala to the next part, and that is the letters that are sometimes heavy and sometimes light. Here we have three letters, and from these three letters today we will be covering two of these letters, alif and lam. Ra we're going to be leaving for the next lesson because Ra is a bit more detailed. Alif and lam are more easier. Now I want you guys to pronounce these two letters. Say alif. Okay. Say a, e, u. Okay. What do you think the default rule of the alif is? Is it heavy or is it light? Why is it light? How do you understand? MashaAllah, you got it. Because you're smiling. So straight away we establish the first point with the alif. The alif is what? The default rule of the alif is that it's light. Okay, there's going to be a difference between alif and hamza. The sound of the hamza is a. Alif is when it comes after, when you make the mud sound, prolonging it. Okay, for example, I don't know, Surat Al-Fatihah. Here this is known as an alif. But the general ruling is that the alif is what? The default is what? It's light. So if someone asks you, remember you have to say the default is that it's light. However, there are exceptions, and this is what we're going to be talking about. If it is preceded by a heavy letter, then it is heavy, and if it is preceded by a light letter, then it is light. For example, I just said now, Surat Al-Fatihah. What's after the ra in the ayah? Alif, good. Can I say Surat Al-Fatihah? Can I say that? What's happened to the alif now? Automatically it's become heavy. Why? Because the letter before is what? Heavy. Okay. طيب, another example, and here are the two examples for you to understand. The second example, watch. إِذَا جَاءَ. Can I say إِذَا جَاءَ? Why not? Dhal is a light letter. So automatically what happens to the alif? Light. So this is the first exception. The alif, the default of the alif is what? The default of the alif is light. And if it's followed, or if before it there is a heavy letter, then heavy. If it's a light letter, light. Good. Remember that, inshallah. And these are the two examples that you can memorize. Moving on, we have the rules of the letter lam. Let's say lam, guys. La, li, lu. Heavy or light? Oh, you're smiling, right? Khalas. Take this principle everywhere with you. Keep it with you. Okay? It's a light letter. But again, there's going to be exceptions. And the exceptions is going to be in only one word in the Qur'an, and that is lafzul jalalah, Allah. Okay? Everyone says Allahu Akbar, right? طيب. Do you say Allahu Akbar? Right? You don't say that. What do you say? Allahu Akbar. What's happened to the lam in this word? It's become heavy. So here is where the rules come in, inshallah. The first thing is lam, the default of it is that it's light. When it comes in the word lafzul jalalah, Allah, there's going to be certain rules. What we do is when we look at the word Allah, lafzul jalalah, we have to look at the vowel, the short vowel, not the letter. What do we look at? The short vowel that is before it. If it is a kasra, or if it's a kasra, then it's light. What is it? Light. Example for that is Bismillahi. What's happened to the word Allah? Light. Why is it light? What's on the meme before it? Kasra, right? So the word Allah is light. Good. طيب. If before it there is a dhamma or a fatha, then the word Allah is heavy. The example that I just gave, Allahu Akbar. طيب. What's on the alif at the beginning? Fatha, right? طيب. These are two examples here for you to understand. If you look on the left side, it says Bismillahi. If I was to ask you guys, the word Allah here, is it heavy or is it light? Light. Okay. The reason behind it, please. There's a kasra before it. There's a kasra on the meme, right? For that reason, it's light. طيب. The next verse. إِذَا جَاءَ نَصْرُ اللَّهِ. The Allah here, heavy or light? Why is it heavy? The Dhamma before it. Now I'm going to give you a golden tip here, or something else, something extra. When we're making the word Allah heavy, we do not make the word or the letter before heavy. Very important. And I'll explain why. Everyone here knows Surah Al-Ikhlas, right? Surah Al-Ikhlas, everyone knows it. قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ اللَّهُ الصَّمَدُ, right? Okay. The lam is becoming heavy and not the letter before. طيب. Let's try it on the Allahu Samad. طيب. Let's take away Allahu. Is there such thing as ah? How should it be? Okay, now try the word Allahu Samad. MashaAllah, you guys are trying it now. Before, how were you saying it? Allah, Allah, Allah. But is there such thing as ah? That stays how it is. The sound stays how it is. It's the Allah, the lam that changes. So you don't say Allahu. What do you say? Watch. Allahu, Allahu, Qul huwallahu, not Qul huwallahu. You see, there's a little difference, there's a big difference in your recitation. So that is the rules regarding the letter lam. Okay, so we've done the letter alif and we've done the letter lam, and we've also done the heavy letters. In the next session we'll be doing the letter ra, which is the third exceptional letter. Then we'll be moving on to light letters bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. طيب. As usual, now we finished that part. We're going to be reciting Surah Al-Fatihah together. Then we've got 2 verses or 1 complete verse left to finish the tajweed aspect of Surah Al-Fatihah. Then I'll allow the audience to recite Surah Al-Fatihah. Is that okay, yeah? Any questions on those rules that we just did? Just those rules, nothing else, please. خلاص? طيب. مفهوم? Understood? طيب. Okay. Everyone recite after me, inshallah, okay? Again, try to look at my mouth movements. That's the most important thing in tajweed, right? أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الرحمن الرحيم. مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم. صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. Ahsantum, mashallah, tabarakallah. I can hear the recitation has slowly improved. Allahumma barik. There's some common mistakes in the first lesson you guys are making. That's slowly going. Okay, practice makes perfect, inshallah. طيب. So we're going to move on now, inshallah. We've got the most important part of this session, and that is looking at the common mistakes people make in these verses. So we finish up to ihdina as-sirat al-mustaqim. Today we will be completing sirat al-ladhina an'amta alayhim and ghayr al-maghdubi alayhim wa ad-dallin, and then I'll allow the audience to recite bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. طيب. At the beginning we have the sirat al-ladhina. Based on what we learned about the sad, what do you think the first mistake is? Good, very good, mashallah. That the W comes out. Sirat al-ladhina. It shouldn't be like that. We just learned right now that the side with the kasra, right? You have the oval shape, but you don't move your bottom lip. Sli. Okay? So side here is heavy, but it's the least amount. After that, we have the ra and ta. Both of these are heavy, and remember the three golden pieces of advice I give. One of them is what? Keep your mouth in an oval shape, and the second is go up and down. You do this with these letters. Many times people do this, Sirat al-ladhin, and then they move out. No. Sirat al. You keep it like that, okay? The next part is okay, al-ladhina, many people get that right. The issue is when it comes to an'amta. Noon and mim are letters that you do not bounce. If you go too fast, what happens? Watch. صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم. I've done a bouncing sound on the noon. You have to hold on to it. You have to hold on to it. But you don't hold on to it for too long, because then it'll become a ghunna. All is balance. Watch. صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم. أنعمت عليهم. Quickly you move on, swiftly. But you don't do it too fast, because what's going to happen? You're going to make a qalqala sound. You're going to make a bouncing sound. طيب. عليهم. Aha is from the bottom of the throat that you learn, right? But sometimes what happens, people do the imala. Who remembers imala? Okay, which is between a fathana, kasra. Alayhim, not him. It's him, right? Not the English equivalent him. No, that's wrong. He, him. Alayhim, not alayhim. Okay? So we join it together. صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم. I can still hear people going fast with the noon. Slow it down a little bit. صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم. طيب, ممتاز. Okay. طيب, we move on to the last verse. غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. Okay, here we're going to be talking about a few very important things. The first is the letter ghain. Alright, we covered the letter ghain, okay, and the letter ghain is more close to the G or G sound and not to the letter K. Because there's kha and there's gha. Sometimes when people are reciting, they come out as ghayril magh, they make it too light. And it becomes a what? Kha. No. Like you're gargling, yeah? Okay? Ghayril. That's the first thing. Ghain is a heavy letter or light letter? We just covered it. Heavy, right? So how will you start off this ayah? Oval shape. Fantastic. Many people, how do they start it? Ghayril. And you'll hear this. This is a comment. But it's not a ghayril. What is it? Ghayril. Okay? That's the first thing. Maghdubi, the ghain in the next word is heavy. Ghain is a heavy letter. But is the meme a heavy letter or not? Try it. Say meme. What do you think? Light letter. Okay. So is there such thing as a ghayril maghdubi? I'm sure you guys have heard this before. Maghdubi. How should it be? MashaAllah. Now you're correcting it. Allahumma barik. Ma. Okay. Not ma. Meme stays how it is. Ghain is the thing that changes. So watch. Ghayril maghdubi. But don't over exaggerate. Don't say ghayril maghdubi. Right? Then you're going to get into imala again. No. Keep it balanced. Ghayril maghdubi. Okay? Then we've got the word alayhim again, which we just covered. Not him. Alayhim. When we're joining wala dhalin, this is where I'm going to be talking about dad. Okay, we have a lot of, Alhamdulillah, Bengali uncles here. They can be witness to this. In Bangladesh, we have this war that goes on. Zallin ele dhalin. Dhalin. In my village, there's still fighting going on. I'm not joking. Zallin. Okay? And some masajid will go, you'll hear them reading as one as Zallin. Type question for you guys. Is there any evidence for this? No? Anyone disagree? No evidence? 100% sure. طيب. Anyone else? You're in for a little shock now. MashaAllah. طيب. traditionally there were some opinions regarding this from scholars, from big scholars, right? Ibn Kathir al-Makki, one of the reciters, as you know, there's different modes of reciting Qur'an, right? And one of the reciters' name is Ibn Kathir, not the Mufassir, not the one that wrote the Tafsir Ibn Kathir. There's a reciter called Ibn Kathir al-Makki. He held the opinion that the dad is actually between a dad and dha. You guys are probably shocked, like, oh, our Bengali uncles had some evidences, right? However, what's happened is people have become complacent in the way they recite it. And now when you hear it, you don't hear anything between that. You just hear straight dha, isn't it? So you hear wala dhalin. You don't even hear anything in between. But majority of the scholars around the world, they take the opinion that they don't take that approach. They take the approach that dad is more close to the dal. And there's a reason for that as well. Because changing letters, what happens? Changes meaning. If a person is going to take the risk on saying between a dad and a dha, what's he going to do most likely? He's going to say dha, right? So the safer option, al-ahwat, is to say wala dha and closing it. So it shouldn't be something that we should be fighting over, because this was a traditional debate from the scholars. So if you ever hear someone, let them have their opinion. They might be pronouncing it wrong, we might be pronouncing it wrong, but know that there are opinions for that. Okay? طيب. Now we're going to be taking the dad, wala dhalin. How should you be saying the dhalin? Okay? When the dad has a sakin, a silent vowel, or a shadda, dad becomes a bit more difficult to say. The scholars have differed on which side of the mouth you should use when you're saying the dad. Some say you should use the left side of your mouth, some say middle, and the most correct opinion is you use the right side of the mouth. You guys are probably thinking, what's this guy on about, man? I'll explain to you. So what you do is you take your tongue to that specific side. For example, if I'm going to say on the right side, I'm going to take my tongue towards the right, and it's as if my tongue is getting stuck. Watch. It's like my tongue is getting stuck, I'm trying to pull it up. And this is the most correct opinion, right? Majority of the general public probably will struggle with this. This is why generally, for the general public, I say the easiest is to do in the middle, because that's what you're used to. But what's the most correct opinion? Right side. Okay? So when you're doing it, if you want to focus on the right side, what you're going to do is you make your mouth into a little bubble here. Watch. Okay? And this is when you do it with a sakin or a shadda. طيب, mafhum? Is everything clear with that? Last thing I'm going to mention, which I've already mentioned in the first lesson, when you're finishing the ayah, make sure you say the noon at the end. Don't just stop. وَلَا الضَّالِّينَ. No. Leen. The noon has to be pronounced. Okay? That's that done. Alhamdulillah, we finished Surah Al-Fatihah now. So we've got the whole surah here. How should we do this? Should we allow one person at a time to read Surah Al-Fatihah? Or one ayah at a time? It'll be good like that, I think, inshallah. So people aren't waiting together, inshallah. طيب, we'll go through the first verse, inshallah. Who wants to read the first verse? Bismillah. Nice and loudly, inshallah. Ta again, don't make the W. Again. Good. Carry on. Ha. Work in your ha. Rahim. طيب. We'll work on that, inshallah. Alhamdu. Good. Let's stop there. MashaAllah. Fantastic. I like your recitation. Allahumma barik. طيب. Who's next? Next verse. Short verse. Or am I going to call someone out? Come on, it's the easiest one. Shaykhana. Good. Very good. MashaAllah. Third verse. Maliki Yawmiddin. Anyone? Good. Again, uncle. Good. Try to say it now with a smile. Smile. Good. You're getting there. Go on again. See, one smile makes a big difference, huh? Right. Not Maliki. What is it? Maliki. Fantastic. Again, uncle. Fantastic. Allahumma barik. So mouth movements are very important. Fantastic. Tayyib. Next one. Hard one. I think the one after is harder. Anyone? Ayyuwa, Mumtaz. Mumtaz. Very good. MashaAllah. Young man, do you want to recite the next one? MashaAllah. Tayyib. Shaykh. MashaAllah. So. Allah, Allah, MashaAllah. Very good, very good. Okay, then we have the last two verses for today that we covered. Who wants to go for that? طيب, one at a time. صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم. Okay, one mistake that you had there, brother, is أنعمت alif first. And that's it, good. Try again. Good. Another thing, when you say the ladina, try the tip of the tongue, bringing it out. Ladina, صراط الذين. صراط. Good, very good. Ahsan. Good. What the uncle was doing was he was making the Z sound, but what do you do? Not zina, ladina. But he corrected himself. MashaAllah. Ahsan. Yeah, that's right. This is a common mistake. Sometimes in our accent, when we say it, what do we say? Surat al-lazina. Right. It's in the accent. We grew up doing that, especially in the Bengali community. But it's quite simple. It's not too hard. You use the tip of the tongue. Surat al-ladhi. Soft letter. Dhina. Okay? طيب. غير المغضوب عليهم. Which is the hardest one? You did excellent, but at the end you started going dwal. No, keep it round shape. ضالين. Better. Ahsantum, ahsantum, mashallah. Okay, we're going to start again. Let's go over the Fatiha one more time. Next verse. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Fardani, inshallah. Rajim. Good. Rahim. طيب, good. Okay. Alhamdu. Good. Ra mutakhir. Ra. Ra. MashaAllah. You got the ra there, MashaAllah. You see, these mistakes, we can always overcome it. We just have to find the ways to overcome it. MashaAllah. Very nice. Okay. Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. Man. Am I going to choose? Brother? Good. Work on your ha a little bit. Rahim. Yeah. It's a common thing that's within this group is working on the ha. We've covered that, inshallah. It's going to come up. طيب, Malik Yawmuddin. Allahumma barik. Ahsant, ahsant. MashaAllah. If I had a sweet now, I would have given it to you. Next lesson, okay, inshallah. Mumtaz. Very good. طيب, next verse. Akhi. Good. Just the ta and make the thing a bit longer. Nasta'een. Very good, mashallah. Ihdina as-sirat al-mustaqim. Who's got the confidence to read that? Someone at the back? Oh, khalas. MashaAllah. Allah yuhyikum. MashaAllah. Anyone? Mustaqim. MashaAllah. Try to smile when you say must. أحسنتم أحسنتم ما شاء الله, very good. طيب صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم. طيب
صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم.
again.
صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم.
The noon you get letting go of it too fast. Not أنعمت, no أنعمت. Right?
صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم.
Yeah. Does anyone know what the ta is? Yeah? It's a common mistake that we make into a T sound. We have to make sure that our tongue is flat. We don't say أنعمت. No. أنعمت. Flat. Okay? طيب, last verse. ختامه مسك. The ending of Bismillah. Again, inshallah, louder. مغ. Ahsantum, mashallah. Very good, very good. Okay. So with that being said, we've completed Surah Al-Fatihah. I want to give a very important message here. That when we are taking mistakes out, don't think that that's the only mistakes that you're going to get. Everyone has mistakes. That's the first thing. Second thing is, which I always mention, do not be demotivated when you're getting these mistakes out. It should motivate you more. That, you know, I want to listen to my Qur'an more. I want to improve my Qur'an more. The third advice I want to give, and this is generally when you start learning tajweed, you have this thing that it will start giving you waswasa in salah. Alhamdulillah, no, it didn't work. Alhamdulillah, right? Don't let the shaitan give you waswas. When you're learning, this is maqam at-ta'aleem. This is a place where we're learning, educating one another, right? But that shouldn't affect you in your ibadat, in your worship, especially in salah. So when you're reading in your salah, read as if you were, however you're reading. Once you become proficient, then alhamdulillah, it's different. So please do not let the shaitan give you waswas, otherwise I'm going to get waswas as well. Okay? طيب, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept from you all. Jazakumullah khair. And we'll finish off here today, inshallah. Subhanak Allahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Barakallah feek. Barakallah. Jazakallah khair. Barakallah feek. No, mashallah, your recitation is good. Your voice is good.